OS1 and welcome to lesson 2 of your witchcraft topic. So in your jotters, if you could take a new heading for today please, which is Accusations of Witchcraft. Now our aims for today, what we're looking to do is to understand how and why witches were accused and to analyse sources of information to further our understanding. Now to start with, in your jotters underneath your heading, if you could write down who were the likely targets. Now, thinking back to last lesson and what we discussed, what we're going to aim to try and do here is to create a mind map using the information on the next slides about who was the most likely targets of being accused of being a witch. So if you could write this down in the middle of your jotter, who were the likely targets, and we're going to use the information on the next slides to try and add in some points around our mind map here. So who were the likely targets of being accused of being a witch? Well, it could be a female, although some men were also accused, but on the whole it was usually females that were accused of being witches. Elderly women were quite commonly accused of being witches. Single, unmarried women were also accused of being witches. And married women who had no children were also a target of being accused of being witches. You also have there at the bottom being accused by another witch. So once people were accused of being witches, if they then accused other people of being witches, then that could make them a target as well. So you have various targets there that you could add in around your mind map. So we'll go through that again. Females were most likely to be accused, although some men were also accused. Unmarried women, quite commonly. Women who were married but had no children. Elderly women, and people who were accused by another witch. Other targets, people in a low social position. So commonly it was poorer people that were accused of being witches. It was quite uncommon for richer or more upper class people to be accused of being witches. So usually people in a low social position would be accused of being a witch. If you had been accused of other crimes like theft, for example, or slander, which is damaging someone's reputation, you could also be accused of being a witch if you had been accused of other crimes previously. Also, if you had been related to or associated with someone who was a witch, so for example, if your cousin or your auntie or anyone in your family had been accused of being a witch, then that could put you at danger as well. And also, someone with a stubborn or different personality who is maybe seen as quite different could also be accused of being a witch. So there's some more targets for you to add in around your mind map. Now don't feel like you need to add all these in. I would say as long as you've got at least 4 likely targets of people who could be accused of being witches, that would be enough. Now we've looked at who could be accused of being a witch. Now what we're going to look at next is what could witches be accused of. Now in total here you'll see that there's 6 speech bubbles on the screen here. Now what we'd like to do in your jotter is to write down 4 of these here. So what could witches be accused of? So we want you to write down 4 things that witches could be accused of. Now it's very important that you write this down in your jotter underneath your mind map, because you're going to be asked this question or questions similar to this when it comes to your assessment on witchcraft. So you need to know about this. So you're looking to write down 4 points here about what witches could be accused of. So firstly, my cow fell sick and died. So witches could be accused of killing animals. My brother had such terrible fits that 6 men couldn't hold him down. So witches could be accused of causing people to have terrible fits, for making people sick and unwell. My beer went sour in the barrel. So witches could be accused of causing things like beer to go off and taste quite bad. She mumbles under her breath. She is talking to the devil. So witches could be accused again of talking to the devil. She isn't married. She must be a witch. So if women weren't married in particular, then that must mean that they are a witch. I took my child for a walk through the village. We passed her house and one of her familiars was there. The next week my child was dead. She must have killed her. Now familiars were effectively animals which accompanied the accused witch, so things like their cats, for example. Now, what that's accusing people of here is ultimately if the witch is familiar, maybe looked at a child, for example, and then the child died the following week, then that could obviously lead to them being accused of being a witch. One week we had an argument, the next I lost my job. It's because she put a curse on me. So witches could also be accused of causing people to lose their jobs. So in total here you have 7 points about what witches could be accused of. In your jotter you're looking to write down 4 of these. So if you want to even pause the video at this point to make sure that you write down 4 in your jotter. That's some of the points that witches could be accused of, some of the things that they could be accused of doing. Now, Malleus Maleficarum is a very, very famous book. Now, this translates into the Hammer of the Witches. Now, this is the best known and most important written document on witchcraft, and this was actually written in the year 1487. Now, it's a primary source because it was written at the time when people were being accused of witchcraft in 1487. It was written by a Catholic churchman called Henrik Kramer. Now, what this encouraged was the extermination of witches, and it recommended procedures that included things like torture to effectively obtain confessions from witches. Now, ultimately, it also recommended the death penalty should be used. Effectively, that was seen as a remedy against the evils of witchcraft. So this was a document from a Catholic churchman, so a man of the church, which people trusted at this time quite a bit because people were very, very religious in 1487. So this is coming from the church, and this is encouraging witches to be killed. It's encouraging uses of torture, and it's encouraging the death penalty against evils of witchcraft. So this shows you how seriously witchcraft was taken. And this is a primary source. Now, the reason we know it's a primary source is because it's from 1487, which is from the time when people were being accused of witchcraft. Now, the last main thing that we're going to do today is we're going to look at some different accusations of people being accused of being witches. So, over the next few slides, you're going to see 7 different accusations in total. Now, what you have to do is this. You have to read each source, which we'll discuss and go over, but you can pause it at each source to make sure you can read it properly, and write down your ideas about who is getting accused of witchcraft and why are they getting accused. Now, to do this, the best thing for you to do is to have a table in your jotter like this. Now, what we have here is case number. So we've got 7 cases in total that we're going to look at. So you'd have that down one side of your table. Then in the next column we've got who's getting accused of witchcraft, and in the last column, why are they getting accused. So we'll talk through each case number. What you're looking to do is to fill out in your table who's getting accused of witchcraft and why are they getting accused. So again, you're doing this in your jotter. I would say half a page in your jotter would be enough, but if you want to use a full page for this, you can. So the first one, case number 1. Wicked women do actually, as they believe and profess, ride in the night time on certain beasts with Diana, a goddess of the pagans, or with Herodias, an innumerable multitude of women, and in the untimely silence of night pass over immense tracts of land. So we look at this here. Firstly, who's getting accused of being a witch? Well, you see there in the first 2 words, wicked women. What are they being accused of? Well, you could see here from the source, riding in the night on certain beasts, so effectively riding on animals. So in your table, I've done the first one for you here. So case number 1, who's getting accused of witchcraft? Well, we could say it's wicked women. Why are they getting accused? Well, they're getting accused of riding during the night on what the source calls beasts, which would be certain types of animals. So that's why they're being accused of being witches. So that's what you need to do for each case number. Now, I've done the first one for you. The rest of the cases I will just talk through, and you can pause the video at certain points to try and fill in firstly who's getting accused of being a witch, and then why are they getting accused. So by the end of this task here, you should have your table completed and all 7 case numbers filled out. So case number 2. Without the use of any poison, but by the mere virulence of their incantations, they can deprive men of their lives. So it's saying here in this source they can deprive men of their life. So again, this is women being accused, and what ultimately it's saying there is they can kill men. Case number 3. There was a certain witch who was so detested by the townsfolk that she was not invited to the celebration of a wedding, at which, however, nearly all the other townsfolk were present. Being annoyed at this, she summoned the devil, and telling him the cause of her anger, asked him to raise a hailstorm and drive all the wedding guests from their dancing, and the devil agreed, and raising her up, carried her through the air to a hill near the town. Then the devil suddenly raised and sent a violent storm of hailstones which fell only on the dancers and townsfolk. So again, this is saying that it's a woman, because it says that she was not invited to the celebration of wedding in our town, so it's a woman that's been accused. What is she being accused of here that's making her a witch? Well, she's being accused there of summoning the devil and making the devil cause a hailstorm, and those hailstones are only falling on the people at the wedding, ultimately almost like a form of revenge there. Case number 4. An honest labourer spoke roughly to a certain quarrelsome woman, and she angrily threatened him that she would soon avenge herself on him. He took little notice of her, but on the same night he felt a pustule grow upon his neck, and he rubbed it a little, and found his whole face and neck puffed up and swollen, and a horrible form of leprosy appeared all over his body. In short, the woman was taken, questioned, and confessed her crime. So again here, who's been accused? Well, we would see from the source it's a woman. What is she being accused of? Well, effectively causing a man's face that she looked at to be covered in pustules growing around it, and then ultimately causing leprosy all over the man's body. Case number 5. One of the citizens has a grievous pain in the head, and a woman came who said she could cure her, and so began certain incantations and rituals which she said would get rid of the pains. And I carefully watched what she did, and I saw that, against the nature of water poured into a vase, she caused water to rise up in its vessel. I addressed the witch in some indignation with these words: I don't know what you are doing, but whatever it is witchcraft, and you are doing it for your own profit. Then the witch at once replied, You will know in 3 days whether or not I am a witch. On the third day, there was not a part of my body that did not feel horrible shooting pains. So again, she here, a woman, so it's a woman being accused. What is she being accused of? Well, we read the source over again. She caused water to rise up in its vessel, so she's been accused of water rising up in a vase. And then the man says there at the end, on the third day there was not a part of my body that did not feel horrible shooting pains, so causing pain to men's bodies as well. Case number 6. The two could, whenever they pleased, cause the third part of their manure or straw or corn to pass invisibly from a neighbour's field to their own. They could raise the most violent hailstorms and destructive winds and lightning, could at times kill whom they wish by lightning, and could cause many other plagues. Now, who's been accused here? Well, it doesn't actually tell us it's a man or a woman, so we just know it's two people. It says the two could. So, who's been accused? It's two people. What are they being accused of? Well, there's a few things here. They're being accused of causing things like strong corn to end up on their fields, their neighbours' fields, somehow invisibly. And also you see there causing violent hailstorms and destructive winds and lightning, so causing very, very bad weather. And even killing people. You see there could at times kill whom they wish by lightning. And the last case, case number 7. Agnes and Anne were taken and shut up separately in different prisons, neither of them knowing in least what happened to the other. On the following day, the bath woman, Agnes, was very gently questioned in the presence of a notary by the chief magistrate, and at the first trial affirmed that she was innocent of making people ill. When she had been freed from her chains, although it was in the torture chamber, she laid bare all the crimes which she had committed. Now, who's been accused here? Well, we've got Agnes and Anne, so we're assuming that Agnes and Anne are two women here. What are they being accused of? Well, you see there that she was innocent of making people ill, so they're being accused of making people ill, ultimately. Now, just to show you how seriously witchcraft was taken, how to spot a witch. In 1597, James VI, who was Mary Queen of Scots' son, he became King of Scotland and King of England. He produced a book on witchcraft. He saw himself as a bit of an expert on witchcraft. Now, in the book, he explained how to spot a witch simply by looking for the following signs. Now, because he's the king, people believe James quite a bit. He's coming from a very, very powerful position. He's saying this is how you spot a witch. Now, some of the things that he said in his book in terms of how you can spot a witch. He said if the person does not know the Lord's Prayer, that means that they are a witch. If they are a friend, neighbour or relative of a witch, so somebody who's already been accused of being a witch, if they're a friend, neighbour or relative of a witch, that's a sign that they could be a witch. If a person dies or has an accident after arguing with the accused, so if you argue with someone and they then die, then you could then potentially be accused of being a witch. And if everybody who lives near the person believes that they are a witch, so if enough people believe it, then that could be a sign that they are a witch. Other things to look for in terms of witches: she may have a familiar to help her in her evil work. Now remember, I just mentioned this earlier, so a familiar might be a thing like a cat, a bird or a toad to help the person with their evil work. She may have a witch's mark, so a lump or mark on her skin where she fed her familiar with her own blood. So King James is effectively saying there that people might use their familiar, so their cat, their bird or toad, let them feed on their own blood, and then they'll be left with a mark, which is a witch's mark. She can hurt people by looking at them. She cannot say the Lord's Prayer without making a small mistake, so we discussed that there earlier as well. Her hair cannot be cut. She makes curses that work, and she has no shadow. So that was some of the other things to look for in terms of spotting a witch. Now, think about what we've just discussed there. What do these examples say about how people viewed witches in the 17th century? Well, you'll see there was a lot of she and her there, so predominantly it was women again that were accused of being witches. Some of the reasons they're accused of being witches, nowadays we might look back and think, well, that maybe isn't believable, but at the time, that's how people viewed witches. Now, going back to our two main aims today, our first main aim was to understand how and why witches were accused. So we looked at different groups that were accused of being witches and what they might be accused of, and to analyse sources of information to further our understanding. So we looked at some primary sources there, and we found out a bit more about why people would be accused of being witches. So for the work for you to upload via the assignment tab on your Microsoft team, what we'd like you to do is to upload a picture of the following work from your jotter, or if you've decided to do this in a Word document and type it up, that's totally fine. If you want to upload the Word document, you can do that as well. So what you're looking to upload is obviously who were the likely targets, so the mind map that you did at the start, what were witches accused of, so you were looking to write down 4 points, and your completed case study table. So the 7 case studies of the accusations of witches, if you make sure that's complete, take a picture of your jotter and upload that via Teams, or if you've done it in a Word document, you can upload this. As always, if you have any questions about this lesson or anything at all you need to ask, then just ask your teacher via Teams. Thank you.